Hello, fellow gardeners. Well, Jack and I are up here in the tomato house. I'm getting a lot of calls from you now and a lot of texts. Everybody's having a problem with blossom end rot. What blossom end rot is when they have a tomato on this blossom end, whenever it was on the stem and the bloom was here, and then it made a little tomato in the back end of that tomato bloom, and then the bloom dropped off. Blossom end rot is right what it says. This end is where the blossom formed turns black, and it's not edible. It's a black decay there, and that's called from lack of calcium. And that usually happens when you transition from your normal spring into hotter weather. The plant is transpiring. The calcium can't get to this tomato fast enough, and so this end does without calcium. It's getting some calcium back here. You'll have a tomato that's good and red except right on the black end here, and that's that blossom end rot. What you need to do is let's plan for next year. Now this season's kind of over. I mean, it's already August here, and we're already through with our tomatoes. And I want to show you that they're not pretty, because a lot of you asking me, well, why are my tomato plants dying? Well, there could be several reasons. That's the lack of water, or it could be the heat. When they get above 94 degrees, tomatoes start stressing. They're really struggling to keep enough water coming up through those leaves, transpiring to keep that plant going, and also putting moisture in here to make this tomato go ahead and mature. So that's the reason I push on you to get these tomatoes out. If you're in a high tunnel, you put the tomatoes out in the spring a month before you can outside. I know we're still going to have some in February when I start to put these out. I know we'll still have some freezing days, but I'm willing to risk that. Go ahead and put my tomatoes in the high tunnel, and then I'll come in here and I'll lay another row cover or two over it, according to how cold it's going to get, to keep them from freezing. Because if you don't, if you wait till it's nice and warm, and the freezes are over down in here in Oklahoma, it'll be in the middle of April to the last of April. You wait till then to put them out, and guess what? The time you get these tomatoes fruiting, it will be 100 degrees. We have a short spring anymore. You know that. We go from winter to summer, and then a lot of time we go from summer right back into winter. We have a short spring and a short fall. So this is the reason it's important to put these tomato plants out as soon as you can get them going. We start our seeds around Christmas, and that gives us 6 to 8 weeks. It'll give you 8 weeks, 6 weeks to 8 weeks, to get these tomato plants big enough to put out, and then get them in these high tunnels. Yeah, you're going to have to start them somewhere, either in a window in the house or in a little heated greenhouse, somewhere to get those tomato plants up 6 or 8 inches tall to put out in February or March if it's a little later on up or further up into the United States. But anyway, we get them out early and get them the fruit set on them before it starts getting above 94, 96 degrees. And that's what we do. Once you get those fruits set on them vines, then they'll go ahead and ripen even in the hot weather. But it just takes a certain period. It ain't going to take all summer. Now, these are pitiful looking vines. But remember, I put these out in February, March, April, May, June, July, August. It's 7 months since I put these tomato plants out. They're not supposed to last this long. They're the determinate tomatoes. You put them out, they come up and make you tomatoes within, there's some that makes you in 52 days, 54 days. Like get on up into early girl will do 54 to 56. Celebrities will do 63, something like that. And you have others. You might have a 80-day tomato that you can put out early and make them go, 80 days before they start producing, and they'll produce another couple of months. But this is what we use, these 53 to 65 day tomatoes. Early girl, early dial, Rutgers, beefsteaks, red douche. There's just a lot of these tomatoes that are determinate tomatoes that you can use and get your crop over before it gets hot, because when it gets hot, there's nothing you can do to save these tomatoes. Yeah, you can put a little shade over them, might help a little bit, but these are just made to live so long and then quit producing. Make a heavy crop and then kind of get out. Now, if you want to try to go right on through the season, plumb on into fall, use indeterminate tomatoes. Get the ones that says indeterminate on them, and they'll last you a little longer. You can see now the cherries, they last longer. They take the heat some. Romas will take the heat some. You can get some Sun Leapers, some Heat Wave, Sun Master. Those kind will try to take it on through the hot sun, but they still, you can see even my cherry tomatoes here, they're struggling. They're half the size they were when we was picking them back in season, and they're still alive. Yes, if I really wanted to get in here and really work these things, keep them watered, keep them fertilized, and keep some of this brown picked off, I could get some tomatoes, but it's not worth it to me to do that. I get my main crop off and then forget them. I'm busy now into watermelons and cantaloupes. I let the boys that want to grow tomatoes, I buy them tomatoes off of them down here in East Texas. You know, we'll buy anywhere from 30 to 50 boxes a week, 25-pound boxes. I'd rather go do that as to try to struggle in the heat in here and do this. But so many people are calling me mainly about this blossom end rot. We'll get back to that a little bit. But there's still a few tomatoes in here, but they're small and everything, but it's just not worth it. Us, now a homeowner might want to struggle on through and try to get a few tomatoes through. This is what I've been telling you when you text me or call me. Now, they used to call it stop rot. Now they call it yield booster. It's made by Fertilome, but there's a lot of different brands out there. Home Depot will have one, Lowe's will have one, Walmart should have one. Any of your box stores, go to your big nurseries, they're going to have something. But this says help stop and prevent blossom end rot. That's what you want to do. You need to prevent it and not wait till it happens. So you prevent it by putting this on your soil before the plants of the tomatoes start getting ripe. Here's another one called calcium nitrate. That's a 15.500. If you'll put some of this on your soil. Now I know a lot of people call me, text me about the blossom end rot. And I said, well, what did you use? 15.500? I sure did. But they still had blossom end rot. So this is not, they didn't use enough of it or something, because see, if you use too awful much of this, you'll be using that first number, that's nitrogen, 15.5. You're going to be getting a lot of nitrogen to it that you don't want, because you're wanting to remember the high center number and high back number to mature that fruit. So it's dangerous to use a lot of this. So that's the reason, use some of this when you put your plants out, calcium nitrate, and then also use you some pure liquid calcium as you start growing the plant. Add a little of this into your water. Once a week, it tells you here to put 2 tablespoons per gallon of water. Well, if I was going to constant feed with this, I would back it up to about a teaspoon per gallon and put it in my water. Now, those of you that have followed me and used the fertilizer I use the Sustain and the Sea Mineral in the soil. Remember, that Sea Mineral is liquid, is ocean water that's been evaporated. It's got 90-something different trace minerals in it. And let me tell you now, I've used that Sea Mineral in these very tubs right here for 10 years. And I use it twice a year. I use a fourth of a cup in the spring before I put my tomatoes plants out. And I use a fourth of a cup in the fall before I put my lettuce and my spinach and my kale out. So I'm using a half a cup each year. And if I've done that for 10 years, I have 5 cups of Sea Mineral in each one of these tubs. Now, I'm going to tell you, a lot of these doctors of agriculture are going to say, oh, Leon, you can't do that. You'll have so much salt in there that you'll kill them plants. Well, when you came back, if you came in here whenever we was doing this heavy production, you could see I was still making tomatoes. The plants were still pretty. And so, yes, there may be a little bit of salt built up in this, but I have not had the problem that it killed my plants like they claim it might. Now, maybe This is because of a little bit of salt in there or too much salt in there and not enough water. We just kind of quit these things here about a month ago, so why wouldn't it be dead if I hadn't watered them in a month? Look at these cherries, though. They're still hanging on. We're not picking these because they're small cherries, and we have other tomatoes to get. They still taste good. If you put out some cherries, put out some Romas, they're still good, awful good in a salad. I just wanted to tell you about this calcium deficiency in the blossom end rot. I'll try to show you a picture. Can you see on there that black end on that tomato? That's the blossom end rot. That's what you got to use, extra calcium. Try to stop that. Other than that, I think a lot of you have had good tomato crops. A lot of them called me or texted me and said you was really proud of what you did with these water buckets. It's a lot easier on these wicking tubs to grow food in them. So, if you like this video, punch the button, ring the bell, and subscribe, and we'll come back and make you another video.